Hello, welcome back. This is Scott Montgomery at the Small Town Mercer. And today I want to touch on another news item that I ran across over the weekend, and that's this universal income notion, I guess it is, in lieu of the fact that we just signed a COVID relief bill worth almost $2 trillion. And then I saw that over the weekend that's getting some steam and some popularity. I have seen a few videos on that over the past month and a half, couple months. People advocating for it, and a few prominent people that I respect and watch a lot of their stuff are proponents of that. And I want to say that let me move this up a little bit here so I can get farther back. I think that, yeah, I can see everything. Okay, sorry about that. All right. I generally don't edit these videos because I feel that whatever mistakes I make are small. And I think most people get the gist of what I'm trying to say. And it's just it's an informal lecture. I'm not trying to be a YouTube millionaire or anything like that with these videos. I'm just getting out information. That's all I want to do. And if they get popular one day, they get popular. If it happens organically, fine. But the main purpose for me is to just get information out there. And that's what I like because I don't see it online. That's why I'm doing it. A lot of people that talk online about crypto are investor types or long-term business types. They don't look at it as if it's our current economic system. And if it is our current economic system, which I think it will be at some point, I'm trying to alert people to what that's going to look like because you're not going to have the same finance that you have today. It's just not going to work because that's a system that's set up to make things fair for everybody. And so for an economic system to be fair for everybody, the number one thing that most people have to engage in to be successful economically is they have to have discipline. You can't just run around spending. Oh, look, there's this pile of money in my bank account. I can get this and I can get that. And if I can't afford that, I'll use a credit card and I'll get another one and another one. That's not discipline. In the future world, you have to have discipline because if you don't have discipline, that's catastrophic. And I'm going to show you this in a second here. So getting back to the universal income notion, I'm not even going to address that, honestly, because my wife told me this morning that in the COVID relief bill, which I didn't really read because I wasn't that interested, honestly, but she said that there's going to be a child credit, and I think from June through December we're going to get a check for our children. I don't know. I think she mentioned $1,000, but I'm not sure if that's right or not. So anyway, moving on to this, I want to get this done so that I can get this video in the can because I got to go downstairs and make another one in my library, and I hope to get that out tonight as well. So anyway, let's just look at this for a second. I'm just going to look through median pricing. All right. And so now here I'm going to use full-time workers. Now, I know previously I've told you there's about 156 million workers in this country, and they make about 48,500 a year. This is actually, there's 150 people who work full-time. They're breadwinners. I'm not talking about seasonal work or part-time work or anything, or student work or whatever you want to call it. That's everybody. But here I'm talking about just the breadwinners. And they make about 67,500 a year. That's their typical salary. Now, these numbers are from the end of 2020. So they're probably still pretty accurate, but inflation ticks up every month, so it might be 68 by now, but it's not much different than that. Okay? And then these average workers, federal, state, and all that, Social Security, everything, they pay about 26% of their salary in taxes, which adds up to about 17,000. I want to put it in red because it goes to the IRS. That's bad. Can't even make an S. Wow. A dollar sign. Let me erase that. It's red and it kind of bleeds. Now let me use the sharp ends. S dollar sign. That's about $17,576 per taxpayer. Now, the government collecting that kind of money from those taxpayers generates about $2.64 trillion of taxes. Now, this 2.64 number, I could not break that down into just the 150 million taxpayers. It's pretty much everybody that works and gets some taxes taken out. So it gets up to that 2.64 trillion. I'm going to guess that this number actually is pretty close to that. I think it actually is 2.64 trillion. The federal government collects, that's what it is. The federal government actually collects more money than that from part-time. So it adds up to about 2.8 trillion, something like that. 2.75 trillion, I don't know, something like that from every other source. And it collects about another, almost $3 trillion from other revenue sources like tariffs and taxing businesses, taxing wealthier people at a higher tax rate, that type of thing. So mostly business owners and businesses in general. And then some of the other things like tariffs and trade agreements and what have you. So it raises the rest of it. So in total, it gets about $5.5 trillion in revenue every year, or at least it did last year. Unfortunately, it spends about $6.5 trillion annually on things, and this number actually dates back this is the expected revenue that the government is going to collect this year, and that comes from a study done in February of 2021. Since that day, we have passed another, 1.9 trillion? And we're going to do more. See if I can write that a little thicker. 1.9 trillion. And we're going to do more. We're going to do this child thing, according to my wife, this summer, starting this summer. So that's going to be another, half trillion? I don't know. So now you're talking about $7 to $8 trillion in debt now. And then you want to add universal income to that? Well, let's look at the flip side of this. Here's something I got from the Labor Bureau back in 2011. I had this chart saved up because I used it for something else years ago for another report I did, and I still had it in my computer. So I dragged it out, and I transposed it here on the board. So what this is these are dollars over here, and I'll put the dollar sign here. These are in dollars, and these are in years down here. Put that in green, okay? And so what this is what $1 was worth during this year is worth today, or is worth in that year's dollars. So I think they started out a dollar equaled a dollar in like 1845 or something like that. So by 1871, they were saying that $1 in this chart was the equivalent of about $5. Okay, I think it was like 428 or something like that, but we'll just say $5. So by 1881, that went up just a fraction. 1891, 2001, 2011, started to go up a little bit in the 1920s. I'm sorry, 1901, 1911, 1921. Started to go up in the 20s because we had the roaring 20s. We're getting off the war years, and women are entering the workforce for the first time, and productivity and the economy was changing. It's no longer a predominantly agricultural society after World War I. During World War I, it was switching over. After World War I, it continues to switch over. After World War II, it's going to switch over even more. And fast forward to today when we had the tech boom, it's almost all industrial. Very few people anymore working on the farm. So I think it's about 12 to 13% of our population works in farm country. So anyway, so this goes up. What happens in 1933? Of course, we're in the Depression. It takes a dip, and then it starts to rise again. Isn't that when they started confiscating gold? And then you get to this point right here, 1971. Now we're off the gold standard. So basically, people can buy gold again because it's not tied to the money anymore. And look what happens. So we went, it was just above, it was almost not quite $50. Or look at this inflation from 1871 to 1971. We go from $5 to about $41 in 100 years. So what was worth $5 in 1871 costs $41 in 1971. And that's over a 100-year period of time. So just to give you an example of that, you could have bought a house in a rural part of a city, and there weren't that many of them. But I do know this because I remember they were building Las Vegas in the early 1900s. And they were starting to build housing. And I think some of those houses were $1,000 to $2,000 for what you would live in today for much more than that. And then you get to the 1970s, and it's like $25,000 for a house similar to that. And we're talking a new house. So it went from $2,000 to $25,000, and we're just talking about a regular frame home, nothing elaborate. Probably a 3-bedroom, and generally older houses only had 1 bathroom in the day because they were still using chamber pots, probably. I don't know. But that equivalent house went from $2,000 to $25,000. Okay, so I think my granddad had a very nice house built in 1970 for $70,000, and he had it built special. That house today is worth $1.4 million, and that's in San Jose, California. So you see how inflation has really taken off since we left the gold standard. So my question is, if you're going to start the deficit spending, and I mean, usually we were, like I put here, from the end of 2017 to the end of 2020, we only went up from about, it went up to $220, by the way. I should finish this. So from 71 to 2011, it goes up from $41 to $220. And then it went up to about $370 in 2015, something like that, I think. It kind of stayed still for about a year, 2015 to 2016. And then 2017, we had more inflation. And then from the end of 2017 till early 2020, it really didn't go up very much. The prices kind of stayed the same for about 2.5 years. Went from 375 to 385, and then boom, we had the COVID thing. We started stimulating again, and now we're really stimulating. So if you want to add, they're talking about $1,000 a month universal income. Because they want you to spend, because they need you to spend to keep the economy going, because the economy is no longer about productivity. It's not productivity. It's about spending. If it was about productivity, right, we would be more concerned about jobs in this country. Everybody having a job and working and making wages that way. That's productivity. But we're not concerned about that. We're concerned about spending. We want to make it big and invest and spend and invest and spend and keep churning out the money. Well, in the fiat system, and this is the fiat system, you are never going to catch up to what you owe. And then what happens? What happens is that the people who generate the most wealth, which are the bankers and the politicians, and the huge conglomerate corporate owners, those are the ones that are gobbling up all the money, and the people who are on higher levels of those companies. Well, that's about what, 5% of the population? You know, I'd rather, and then what does the other 95% do? Spending to catch up? You know, that's not a good recipe for success. Inflation is going to greatly outpace whatever money they give you. And eventually, the countries that spend the most money in the past have been countries like Argentina or Zimbabwe or Italy or Greece or Portugal or other nations similar. Now Venezuela is going through it. What happens? A large part of that population doesn't have anything. You know, especially if they're living in remote areas, because remote areas of those countries are not large agricultural type establishments existing there and making a lot of money. People who live in those parts of those nations generally are dirt poor and don't have jobs, and they're just scrounging for food, maybe. Not always, but oftentimes. So, anyway, do we really want to go down that road? Do we really want to impoverish this country of 350 million people and enrich a few countries who are honestly turning away from the fiat currencies? You know, I look at a place like Singapore, very friendly to cryptocurrency. All the cryptocurrency investment sites are up and running there. And you can't necessarily say that for the United States. And you certainly can't say that for some of these countries that are trying to put the kibosh on cryptocurrency. So the universal income thing, again, that might be the death knell of fiat currency. And so if that does pass, I will caution you, that's the time to really move into crypto. Because I know cryptocurrency, oh yeah, it went above 60,000 this weekend and now it's down to 56 or 57 again. Well, guess what? It's not going to, a year from now, you're going to be talking, oh, gee, my cryptocurrency, my Bitcoin went down again from 150,000 to 148,000. Oh, shucks, this is the death knell for Bitcoin. Yeah, no. You're going to see a lot more money moving into this space because there's no other way to keep value other than buying precious metals or crypto. So anyway, that's my video on this subject. Went a little long, but I wanted to get that out there because I think that's, to me, it's if it does pass the universal income thing, that's a signal to get into cryptos and quickly. All right. Thank you very much. I'll see you in my next video. Have a blessed day.